Hey you guys, welcome back to Rebuilding in Recovery. My name is Tracy and I am a heroin addict turned therapist, and this is Rebuilding in Recovery, typically your guide to building a bomb life after addiction. However, I am doing something a little bit different today. I'm starting a type of story time segment. Now, I'm going to be honest, I struggled with this decision for a little bit because it is one thing to share kind of therapeutic stuff with you on the internet, how to manage your emotions and set goals and things like that, but it's another thing to share my deepest, most traumatic moments that I tried for a really long time to keep hidden. I did really struggle with this decision, but the thing is, I don't feel that we need to live in embarrassment and feel like there's a part of ourselves that we need to hide for the rest of our lives because we made mistakes at one point. There's really a lot of things that I hope to accomplish by starting this storytime segment. I also want you guys to really see where I was and where I am and know that success is possible after addiction. And also, I want to raise awareness to what addiction is really like, what jail is really like, and what really helps in treating addiction and what doesn't. So today I'm going to share with you about one of the hardest periods in my life. I'm going to share with you about what it is like to find a job with felonies. I think that this is really important to know because addicts oftentimes are punished for their addiction by being put in jail. And what jails do basically is take someone who has a lot of problems, a lot of issues, it gives them more problems and issues, and then it puts them out back into society and says, okay, do better or you're going to be in trouble again. I feel that this is a highly ineffective way to treat addiction. So I just want to share a little bit about what that struggle is really like. So I was released from prison in 2014. This was my last time being locked up, and at this point I had 2 felonies on my record. I had a burglary and I had a possession of a controlled substance. So at this point I had been clean for the longest period that I had been clean since I was probably 14 years old. I believe I was 24 at the time. So I was released from prison, but I was court mandated into a halfway house. Luckily, the halfway house that I found was a free halfway house. The woman who runs that halfway house is absolutely amazing, and she took me in immediately, specifically because she knew that my release was depending on it, and I will always appreciate her for that. And I was court mandated to complete my stay in this halfway house, which was about 4 months long. Now, during my stay in this halfway house, I actually ended up getting pregnant for the first time. And it was at that point that my perspective on life kind of changed. I very quickly developed a bond with my baby, and I knew that it was time to grow up. I knew that it was time to leave that life behind and start doing what I needed to do to provide for this child, because it wasn't about me anymore. So before I even got out of the halfway house, I was researching schools and I enrolled in college. I enrolled in a local community college while I was still at the halfway house. And so many people told me, do not do that. You are newly clean. You're newly out of prison. You're about to have a baby. This is too much for you right now. Do not enroll in school. But I didn't listen because I knew that that was the only way that I was going to be able to get a good job to provide for this child. So I completed my 4-month stay in the halfway house and I returned home to live with a family member. I was very fortunate that I had family that was willing to help me out at this point and give me a place to live and not charge me money to be there. But I immediately started looking for a job upon my return home. And I immediately realized that getting a job now was going to be a lot different. I applied at literally probably 20 places before I got a call back, and then I had multiple interviews that were the most awkward interviews that I have ever had in my life, and that always ended in rejection. And for a long time, I tried to hide my past when I was applying for jobs. I would check no, I had never been convicted on my job application. And during the interview, I would just pray that they would not bring it up. Or if they did bring it up, I would say, no, my record's clean, nothing to worry about. And then they would find out that it wasn't. And I think probably my dishonesty contributed to me not getting jobs in the beginning, but I was so embarrassed of my past that I didn't want to tell anybody about it. So I finally had an interview where I decided to be honest. It was an interview at a truck stop for a waitressing position at the restaurant inside of the truck stop. And we got done with the interview and my interviewer says, I like you. you're hired. And I was so elated that I had finally gotten a job. I didn't care that it was a waitress at a truck stop. I was grateful and I was excited and I wanted this job. And at this point, this was literally the only job that would take me. Now, I did have some stipulations, like I was not allowed to use the cash register and things like that because of my charges. But they were very willing to work with me there, and I will forever be grateful to them as well for giving me that first opportunity when nobody else would. So for about 2 years, I worked there and I saved up money, saved up $800 to get my own car. I got a 98 Toyota Camry that I could not drive above 30 miles per hour because it often wouldn't shift into third gear. But I continued to work second shift and I was going to school and I was doing my thing. But then I had my son and I had to move to day shift because I had no childcare on second shift, right? And the problem is that there's no money in waitressing on day shift. So after I had my son, not only did I have 2 felonies, which made it extremely hard to get a job, but I also had to get a job within daycare hours because I was a single parent. So after about 2 years of saving up my money and going to school and getting a car, I was able to save up enough for my own place. And I was able to find a duplex in town for about $500 a month. And I moved my son and I into the duplex. It was my very first place on my own ever. So after I got my apartment, I realized that I needed to have a more stable paycheck. My paycheck waitressing was all over the place, so I went through a staffing agency and applied at a local factory. If you are a felon in a rural area like I am, you probably know that waitressing and factory work are the 2 most common places that will accept felons. So I thought that a factory would be perfect because it pays pretty well, it's got stable daytime hours, and I would be able to do this while my son is in daycare. So I started at this factory that was about 30 minutes from my house. I had to be there at 6:30 in the morning. So I had to wake up my son at about 4:30 a.m., drag him to daycare at about 5:30 a.m., and then go straight to work where I would work a 10-hour day at an assembly line doing the same exact thing over and over the whole entire day. And it literally killed my soul. That's another story. It was an extremely boring job. I was extremely tired at the end of the day. I hated waking my son up at 5:30 a.m. on a cold winter day and taking him to daycare all day long. But I actually didn't have to worry about that for long because on my very second day of work, the line leader says, "You guys, we did not meet our productivity this week. Everybody needs to be here at 4:30 a.m. on Saturday." I said, "What? On Saturday? I'm a single mom. I don't have childcare at 4:30 a.m. on Saturday. That's why I took this job, because it was daytime hours." And my line leader felt for me a little bit, and he was like, "I will try and cover for you, but I don't know how long that's going to work. You're going to have to figure out a way to work Saturdays." So he did cover for me for a couple weeks, but it didn't take long until my coworkers were noticing and getting mad, and they were noticing that the new girl never had to work Saturdays like they did. So it didn't take long before I got a call from the staffing agency that said, "We are laying people off and we're done with you at this point." So a couple months after getting my own apartment for the first time, I was laid off from my job. Now, this was the start of a period of about 6 months where I didn't have a job at all. I tried to get government assistance at this point, but if you have a drug charge in Indiana, you cannot get food stamps. Well, you can now, but back then you couldn't. So I was not able to get food stamps or government assistance. There were times when I literally had no idea how I would provide food for my son that week. I had no idea how I would get my rent paid. I was borrowing money from people. I was doing odd jobs. I was running up my credit cards, doing anything that I could do to get by. And I was applying anywhere and everywhere. I'm talking McDonald's. I'm talking everything. I put in millions of applications. I feel like literally probably 100. And I got nothing. I got no calls back. It was a really, really low time for me. I was panicking, my very first time out on my own, and I am failing. I can't feed my child. I can't get a job anywhere. I was like, I'm never going to be successful. I'm never going to have money because of my background. Now, as we were going on about 6 months without a job and somehow still making it by and keeping my apartment, I had an interview set up at Chipotle, the Mexican fast food restaurant. I went to this interview and I felt like it had went pretty well. I was excited because I thought that I had finally gotten a job. Well, a couple days later, I get the email and it says, "We have decided to pursue another candidate." And I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken that I did not get this job at Chipotle because that was it. I was going to lose my apartment. I didn't have any money to pay my rent. I needed that job. And if I can't even get a job at a fast food restaurant, I'm never going to make it. That was my mindset back then. I was done for. I wasn't going to make it. While I was online applying for jobs, I saw a job at a local mental health center. Now, that was what I was going to school for at the time. I was still in school. I was still doing my homework at nights after my son went to bed. So I didn't have a degree yet at this point of any kind, but I did have a little bit of schooling under my belt. And I was like, I know that they're never going to hire me because places like this don't hire felons, but what the hell? I'm gonna put the application in anyway. So I did, knowing full well that they were not going to call me back. But lo and behold, a couple weeks later, I get an email that says, "I'm interested in your application and I would like you to come in for an interview." So I went in for that interview and I was honest and I was extremely embarrassed. I was red-faced trying to explain why I had these charges on my record. And I guess that they appreciated my honesty because they hired me. And they are not typically a felon hiring location. So we had to jump through some extra hoops with HR and paperwork and statements and background checks. But they did it, and they gave me that chance, and they gave me my foot in the door to the mental, and it gave me for the first time in my life a job that I was proud of, a job that I actually enjoyed. And I always look back on that moment when I'm trying to remind myself not to give up or when I'm really frustrated, because if I had gotten that job at Chipotle, then I wouldn't have applied at the mental health center, and I would probably still be working at Chipotle today, and I would be a manager at Chipotle instead of a therapist today. So that denial actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So I got this job at the mental health center, the highest paying job, the best job I've ever had, but it was still a little bit of an issue because it was like weekend and evening hours and things that I really could not do as a single parent. But again, my prayers were answered. A couple months later, I got an offer from the case management department to come and do an interview there to be a case manager. I was promoted into a different position, which was a little higher paying. It was Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and it was perfect. I think that I started to develop a healthy professional reputation, and I started getting offers at other places, and it became easier and easier for me to get jobs from that point because I was able to get my foot in that door with that one position. So at this point today, I am working in one of the highest paying jobs that I have ever had personally. I work from home, which is amazing. It's amazing to have that very flexible schedule for my children. I am financially stable. I provide for my kids independently. And in 3 weeks, I will be graduating with my master's degree. It's crazy, crazy for me to look at where I was 7 years ago, struggling in my crappy apartment, not knowing how I was going to feed my child, to today, where like I'm not rich, but if I need something, I can buy it. We can go on vacations. It's a very drastic difference where I was 7 years ago and where I am today. And I wake up every single day grateful AF for the life that I have right now. Every single day, I just can't even believe it. So I hope that for anybody who is watching this that is a felon and is struggling with getting jobs right now, I hope that this is able to give you a little bit of hope. And I hope that you are able to recognize that success is possible after addiction. And that's really the main reason why I wanted to share this. So thank you guys for watching. I will probably try out more of this personal type segment. So if you like it, do me a favor and comment down below. Let me know that you guys like it. If you want to do all the other YouTube stuff that people do, like subscribe and comment and like and all that, I would really appreciate it. Share this with somebody else who is in early recovery or trying to find a job that it might benefit. And I will see you next Saturday. And I hope that you are able to recognize that success is possible after addiction. And that's really the main reason why I wanted to share this. So thank you guys for watching. I will probably try out more of this personal type segment. So if you like it, do me a favor and comment down below. Let me know that you guys like it, and I will keep doing things like this. If you want to do all the other YouTube stuff that people do, like subscribe and comment and like and all that, I would really appreciate it. Share this with somebody else who is in early recovery or trying to find a job that it might benefit. And I will see you next Saturday.